putting the finishing touches on this week's edition of shows, ladies and gentlemen, on what is the hottest form, best form of Alabama news, notes, and information you are going to find in the streets, on the internet, or wherever you choose to get your notes on the Crimson Tide. This is In My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Live in studios, Nick Saban and the Tide getting a 49-7 victory over Southern Mississippi inside of Bryant-Denny Stadium. And before I get into the things that stood out to me, going to update you on some injuries here, as junior outside linebacker Terrell Lewis, the former five-star, did not participate in the game, was seen in street clothes, and according to Nick Saban, Lewis sustained a hyperextended knee in the matchup against South Carolina. The projected time the Tide is hopeful to have him back at 100% would be next Tuesday as it prepares to jump back in the Southeastern Conference play against Ole Miss. But Lewis did not play against Southern Miss due to a hyperextended knee. In other news, Will Reichert, the three-star kicker, true freshman out of Hoover, Alabama, sustained a hip flexor in the matchup after his second made point-after touchdown attempt. He attempted the ensuing kickoff, and his foot hit both the kicking tee and the ball, which threw the hip out of motion a little bit there, and it's kind of a tough thing for kickers to manage. He did not return to the game. Joseph Alovis took his place against Southern Miss, and according to Coach Saban, Reichert probably the only guy listed as questionable for the matchup against Mississippi, but hopefully he'll be prepared to go with a little rest and some work here and there. He'll be listed moving forward as day-to-day. And then last but not least, DJ Dale, the true freshman nose tackle, was helped off the field into the locker room. Coach Saban mentioned he had a strained patella tendon in his knee, but team doctors feel like he will be okay. Nick Saban listing him as okay as well. Hopefully, the Tide can get some guys back healthy, but more importantly, get these guys up to speed as well from the matchup against Southern Mississippi. So just updating you there on the injuries, that being Terrell Lewis, Will Reichert, and DJ Dale. But before we jump into what stood out to me, gotta, as always, give a shout out here to our sponsors, as In My Own Words, the podcast, you guessed it, brought to you by Title Towel. This is the Rally Towel with benefits for the avid Alabama sports fan. Title Towel is only $9.99, and it lasts a lifetime. So people, you show your pride and purpose for all things Bama as you twirl Title Towel in the air like you just don't care. You go to WhitwillSports.com. That's WhitwillSports. WhitwillSports.com, and get you a couple of those towels today. Things that stood out to me against Southern Miss. Well, for starters, number one, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa and wide receiver Henry Ruggs III. That was a connection in the matchup. I mean, it's pick your poison with Tua. All four receivers, Judy, Ruggs, Smitty, Waddle, they're all good. We've seen big performances from Ruggs. We've seen big performances from Smitty, from Judy, and from Waddle. And you can't double team any of these guys because somebody's going to burn you. And today, well, on Saturday, it just so happened to be Henry Ruggs' day. Tua Tagovailoa, 17 for 21 passing, 293 yards, 5 TD passes. He came one touchdown pass shy of setting a new school single-game record for touchdown passes, but Tua right now, number one quarterback in terms of the Heisman, number one quarterback in terms of the 2020 NFL Draft. And when you look at Henry Ruggs, 4 catches, $148, and 2 touchdowns, including his 74-yard score where, I mean, this guy completely burns the defensive back. The ball is underthrown by Tagovailoa. Ruggs is able to turn, contort his body, look for the ball while going full speed, not breaking stride, makes the catch, and still is able to outrun the DB to the house. This is a top 15 pick bucket. Top 15 pick. I mean, he's the number 2 receiver or number 3 receiver on my draft board, but he is a top 15 pick, number 15 overall bucket. If this young man goes in to the NFL Combine and clocks a sub 4.2 40 time in the 40-yard dash, he's in there. Because this is what NFL scouts want. A guy that can take a 5-yard slant route or a 3-yard bubble screen or a 2-yard pop pass and turn it into a 90-yard jet to the house. And that's exactly what Henry Ruggs does. 4 catches, a $148, 2 touchdowns. He is literally Tyreek Hill, Tavon Austin, all of these fast, twitchy jet receivers. You can even throw Ted Ginn in there. He is all of these fast, quick, twitchy jet receivers in one. The young man Ruggs, zoom, master, as I like to call him, the total package. Tua Tagovailoa, Henry Ruggs, together, both of those two stood out to me. Moving on down to the second thing that was big for Alabama in the matchup against Southern Miss, another tandem. How about Nagi Harris and the Alabama offensive line in terms of the run game? I mean, for the first couple of weeks, fans kind of nervous, kind of scared, kind of skeptical of, is Alabama going to be able to run the football? Can this team establish a run game? Do we, as the fans, see a 100-yard rusher at some point this season? It happened against Southern Miss. Alabama's offensive line opening up some gaping holes for Nagi Harris, and the junior from California pressed the holes well. 14 carries, 110 yards rushing, average 7.9 yards a pop. Harris bringing Alabama its first 100-yard rusher since Damian Harris had the 100-yard game against LSU this past season, had 107 yards rushing against the Tigers in a 29-0 win in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Tiger Stadium. So Nagi Harris getting a $110 on 14 carries against Southern Miss. Also had a 5-yard touchdown reception. 65 of Nagi's yards came around the right side of that offensive line. So big ups to Landon Dickerson at right guard, Cedric Wills at right tackle, paving the way for one Harris. And also the offensive line as a whole blocked for 514 yards and only gave up 1 sack of Tua Tagovailoa. So the front line, fantastic job. Pass protection, tremendous job. Run blocking. And the week before you get Deontay Cornbread Brown back, this was a good sign. This was a good look as the line showing the fan base it can establish, it can generate, it can open up the run game. So that was number 2. But number 3 thing that stood out in the matchup, Trayvon Diggs Island. Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs did his thing, and he is vastly underrated by a lot of people. I go back to the national championship game against Clemson for just a moment here. If Diggs played in this game, if the 6'2", 207-pounder, former 4-star from Maryland in the 2016 class, if he played in that game against Clemson, he shuts Justin Ross down. Because, I mean, Savion Smith, pimp juice, he ain't Trayvon Diggs. Savion Smith just got burned by Justin Ross in that game. So if you had Diggs in that matchup, putting Diggs that's more athletic, that has more length, that has more range, that has more press ability, that's the better all good coverage corner, coverage defensive back. If you had Trayvon Diggs on Justin Ross, that would have been a much better matchup for Alabama. But I digress from that statement. Diggs, big-time ball game, had 3 tackles, shut down his side of the field, even had an interception, his second pick of the year. And on both of Diggs' takeaways, if you go back and watch the tape against Duke and against the Golden Eagles, he does exactly what Nick Saban wants his DBs to do. That's cut the receiver off. You cut the angle. In the same way you do the angle tackling, you cut the angle off as far as the route running goes. You cut off the receiver's ability to get to the football. You put yourself in good position in phase as the DB, and you play the football. And that's exactly what Diggs did. What Diggs did on the play. Textbook. Cut off the angle, put himself in the position where he's in the hip pocket of the wideout, and made a play on the ball. Diggs Island, he's right now moving up on boards, my board in particular, and being a top 15 pick or a top 15 to 20 pick in terms of the NFL draft, but he was the third thing. Fourth thing that stood out to me in the matchup, defensive lineman Christian Barmore. Bama's got to get this guy more reps because a lot of people compare him maybe to a Quinnen Williams type, but when he's on the field, he's kind of an angry A'Shawn Robinson type. The man got in the game, and his teammates were already hyped up the moment he touched the field, seeing how the targeting call against him in the matchup with South Carolina was bogus anyway on last week. Did not lead with the crown of his helmet, but I'm not the guy in pinstripes. I'm not the officials, whatever, but still, not a targeting call. But Christian Barmore got in the game, 3 tackles, including a big tackle for a loss where he just blew somebody up. I mean, just decapitated that guy. And once again, people like to compare him to Quinnen Williams. He kind of has the same body structure, but as far as his playing style, this is an angry man from Philly. This is an angry man from Pennsylvania, and he plays much like A'Shawn Robinson as far as the anger and wanting to blow plays up and attack the football. So got to have more reps there in the future for a guy like Christian Barmore. Was impressed by him. But running back to this again here, 4 things that stood out to me in the win over Southern Miss. Number 1, the combination, the connection, Tua Tagovailoa, Henry Ruggs, the Hawaiian Prince, and Zoom Zoom Mazda. Gorgeous. Big time performance from both guys. Number 2, Nagi Harris, the Alabama offensive line. It can run the football. Did that against the Golden Eagles. Number 3, Trayvon Diggs, Diggs Island, doing his thing. He's got 2 picks on the season, looking for more, but a good game against Southern Miss. And then last but not least, Christian Barmore. May look like Quinnen Williams, but plays like A'Shawn Robinson, and Bama's got to get him some more reps. But folks, that's going to do it here on this week's edition of shows and recapping Alabama and Southern Miss. As always, you check out the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. Do that today, people. You can get the app by downloading it from the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you got the Android phone. Podcast options listed for you at the bottom of the screen. You also subscribe to TD, AlabamaMag.com for all the latest, and Touchdown Alabama Magazine on YouTube, folks. Get with the site. Over 1 million video views and over 5,000 subscribers strong. Thanks to you, the fans. When we start next week's edition of shows, people, I'm diving into my Heisman watch. My top 5 guys on the Heisman and where I see or where I have Tua Tagovailoa on that list. Until next time, folks, it's yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. You've been listening to In My Own Words. What's up, college football fans? You can catch the show every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Subscribe to get all the news, notes, and information covering your Alabama Crimson Tide.